Over the past decade, I've worked on documentaries for HBO, Hulu, National Geographic, Insider, and more. So in today's video, I'm going to share 13 hard truths that I wish I would have known when I was just getting started. 13 truths that most aspiring documentary filmmakers will learn the hard way, and usually when it's too late. Truth number 1, you don't make money as a filmmaker. When I finished journalism school at Stanford University, my first job was as a video journalist at the LA Times. There I was doing all parts of the process. So I would find the stories, film them, edit them, and put them out. But after realizing that the short form informational nature of video journalism wasn't really the right fit for me, I decided to start my freelance career as a documentary filmmaker. When I made that transition, I thought that the way I would make my living as a documentary filmmaker would be similar to the way that I was making it when I was on staff as a video journalist at a newspaper. I would go out, I'd find stories, I'd film them, I'd edit them, and then put them out. And somewhere in that process, I thought maybe I would make money. Maybe I would get funding up front, or I'd sell a documentary film on the back end and be able to make my living that way. That assumption was also informed by the documentary filmmakers that I was aware of at the time. I didn't know many, but I knew people like Ken Burns, Alex Gibney, Laura Poitras, and Matthew Heineman. And when I looked at them, all I saw was them making their living as documentary film directors. So that seemed like the path. It didn't take long for me to realize that I was completely wrong. Yes, there are a few people who make their living as documentary film directors, bringing projects from an idea to the final edit. But for the 99% of us, that is just not the way we are ever going to make a sustainable living. The way that people make a living in this industry is by having a trade skill, essentially developing a deep expertise in one part of the filmmaking process, and then working for someone else to bring that person's vision to life. For example, I love making documentaries and working on stories from end to end. I always have independent documentary projects that I'm directing, filming, editing. I'm always working on them. But right now, and more than likely in the near future, I will continue to lose money on those projects. The way I will actually make my living, and I do, is through my trade skill, which is as a freelance cinematographer who specializes in documentaries. So if a documentary director out there is looking for someone to film at a high level, make things look good, but who's also comfortable in, small crews, filming in chaotic and unpredictable run and gun environments, but also someone who's comfortable building out polished interview sets. If they're looking for someone who can build relationships and understands the elements of storytelling that go beyond just a pretty image, then they'll give me a call and offer me a day rate. If it's the right fit for both sides, I go out and shoot it, and then I pass off the footage and often never see that footage again until the film is released. Now, I am trying to design a life in which, as I grow in my career, I will gradually have more freedom to take stories from beginning to end. But the main point is that if you have a vision of living a middle-class life by making your independent documentaries and then selling them on the back end, that is just not realistic. I like the way that fellow documentary filmmaker and educator here on YouTube, Luke Forsyth, put it in one of his recent videos. He described this difference that we're talking about right now as being between a filmmaker and a film worker. A filmmaker makes their own projects from beginning to end. A film worker executes on someone else's vision. And truth be told, many of the people that we now look up to as filmmakers, full-time filmmakers, they only got there after many years of being a film worker. Either that or they came from a ton of money. Speaking of which, you can't beat the way that Professor Scott Galloway describes that brutal truth.
You guys should absolutely make movies after you are rich. After you are rich. Because if you want to make movies for the big screen, oh my God, you better have a rich spouse or a parent who's given you hundreds of millions of dollars, or maybe be Martin Scorsese. I mean, maybe you're just fucking crazy genius. Assume you are not. So find me a documentary filmmaker and I'm going to say, oh, that means you married someone rich, right? You're a bored spouse looking to have relevance. And your wife has said, Jesus Christ, just go make documentary films and we'll go to the Venice Film Festival and we'll spend $3 million highlighting, the diamond trade in Africa. And if it's super successful, we'll only lose $2 million. That is the movie business.
Okay, now I have a much rosier outlook on things than Scott Galloway. And his message seems to be more about filmmaking rather than film working. But it is a message that has some truth in it. So I want to encourage everyone out there watching right now, at the start of their documentary film journey to pick your trade skill. What job do you love most in the filmmaking process? Start building that narrow set of skills, an expertise, and a portfolio so that you can start contributing to other people's projects. In doing so, you're going to give yourself a higher probability of making a sustainable living. Truth number 2, you have to humble yourself. This is a build on our first truth, and it is about the realities of making a living with this art form. Most documentary filmmakers, even if they have a world-class talent in a particular filmmaking trade skill, they have multiple income streams. They aren't just working on documentaries. In 2024, the International Documentary Association held a conference called Getting Real, in which they had a big session titled Sources of Income Confessional Board. An anecdotal and unscientific overview of those results from that session revealed that documentarians are making ends meet in all sorts of ways. Many have multiple jobs. Many are doing some form of commercial, corporate, or branded work. Many take on gig or part-time work outside of the industry, like bartending or tourism or catering. Some have full-time jobs outside of their documentary work. In fact, one person at this particular session worked full-time as an ER nurse. I think that this is a helpful reminder that sometimes we have to humble ourselves to make it all work. Because despite what social media might have you believe, most documentary filmmakers do not make all of their income from documentary filmmaking. There is a lot of shame associated with not being able to support yourself solely from your creative endeavors. Sometimes it can feel like you're the only one juggling a bunch of random jobs while struggling to make work that you find meaningful. But you are not alone. So if you have felt shame or imposter syndrome around this, please let go of those fears. Celebrate the shoot at a wedding or a tech company. Celebrate the Uber side hustle. Celebrate the ER nurse. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Truth number 3, your skill set isn't special. Welcome to the era of democratized filmmaking, in which everything from cameras to sound equipment to editing softwares and to the means of distribution are cheap, if not completely free. The barrier to entry has never been lower for someone who wants to get into documentary filmmaking. And I think that's great because it allows more people out there to tell their story, to express what's meaningful to them. It also means that, unlike how it was in the past, none of us have to wait for some network executive up in their New York skyscraper to pick us and give us an opportunity to tell a story. We all have the tools to create and put out our own films, make our own opportunities, build an audience, and make a living doing this thing. In that way, the democratization of filmmaking has led to a more merit-based system. If you have the drive and the talent, you can create every opportunity that you seek. However, the democratization of filmmaking also means that there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of people who do what you do. If you hold a camera and make things look pretty, if you edit, if you tell personal stories, just take an hour on YouTube, look around, and you can likely find a teenager on a $1,000 mirrorless camera who is doing all of that at a very high level. Your technical skill set is not unique. So, what do you sell if your technical skill set is not unique? How do you get jobs or opportunities over those tens of thousands of other people? Well, assuming your technical skills are up to the baseline of the job, the way you differentiate yourself is the soft skills. Being kind and professional, someone who shows up on time, delivers on their promises, and being someone who others would want to work closely with in intense, unpredictable environments. You separate yourself by having unique access or insight to a story. You separate yourself by having a point of view, a defined style or angle of approaching stories that is true to who you are and how you see the world. This all can take a lot of time to refine. We're all trying to, hone in on our own creative voice, but the search for that point of view is worth it because otherwise you're just another person holding a camera. Truth number 4, you're not making movies for the big screen. If you got into filmmaking because you loved going to the movie theater and seeing films on the big screen, be careful holding a theatrical release as too precious. I know that theaters are romantic, but don't romanticize your film being there. In 2024, over 3,000 movie screens closed nationwide, and the American theater industry saw its worst slump in 30 years. Every day, there are fewer and fewer big screens, and for the ones that are still around, documentaries are less and less likely to find their way there. So, as you think about where your film might come out, Don't put theaters on a pedestal. Put the impact that you want to make on a pedestal. If that means that people watch your surround sound mixed feature film on their phone, so be it. Truth number 5, film festivals are not a golden ticket. Speaking of the big screens, for many documentary filmmakers out there, the only time you're going to see your films on a big screen are at film festivals. And that is one of the cool things about being part of a film festival. I've personally screened documentary projects in theaters thanks to festivals such as the American Documentary Film Festival, the Mill Valley Film Festival, and it was absolutely a special experience to see how the story resonated when it was on a bigger screen than my computer. But I gotta tell you, when it comes to the value of film festivals, the truth is most filmmakers wildly overrate them. I see filmmakers all the time who position film festivals as this golden ticket towards future work and opportunities. They think that if they get a laurel on their film poster, suddenly a ton of people are going to watch it. Not true. They think that if they screen their film at the festival, suddenly they will be discovered. Also, not true. Look, if your goal with a film festival is to get discovered, then there are really only a few festivals that matter. This is not a full list, but I'm talking about festivals like Cannes, Sundance, Berlin, TIFF, BFI, South by Southwest, International Documentary Film Festival. And even if you do get into one of those, like I said, just having your film at a festival doesn't really do anything. You still have to show up, network, make friends, make connections, hustle, all the same things that you would have to do even if you weren't featured in a film festival. All right, don't get me wrong. Film festivals can be super fun, fulfilling, allow you to connect with new people. They do have value, but don't view them as some magic gateway to opportunity, because they just are not.
All right, here's our theater. We're about 5 minutes from go time. We got a couple people.
Truth number 6, success is business, not just art. Most people who work in the documentary filmmaking industry do so as freelancers. One thing that I don't think I fully appreciated when I was starting work as a full-time freelancer in 2018 was that now I had to run a business. Maybe that sounds obvious, but I just don't think I fully grasped what that meant. After all, I didn't go to business school. I didn't grow up wanting to be an entrepreneur. But here I was in 2018 filing papers to make Austin Meyer LLC an actual thing. The reason I put this in my list of brutal truths is because if you love making documentaries, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to love running a business. Think through this. If you are freelance, you're not just out there expressing that freedom by making films all day. No, you are doing everything from filing business documents to building a website, to marketing your business, to making sales pitches, to managing client relationships, to sending invoices, to tracking income and expenses, to paying estimated taxes, to hiring contractors, to creating business plans, etc., etc. If that sounds horrible, you should think twice and 3 times about whether you will be happy as a freelance documentarian. Maybe it makes more sense for you to try and work for a production company or to keep your day job and make docs on the side. Either way, I just want to make sure that you all understand that for most people, success in this industry is not a function of how good you are at the artistic side of the craft. It's a function of how good you are at both the business and the art. Being a better business operator will give you more freedom to make the art that you want to make. Truth number 7, networking is your lifeline. I want to double down on the marketing aspect of what I just talked about in the business of filmmaking. Like I said, your skill set probably isn't unique, and you probably didn't just win an award at Sundance last month. That is, unless your name is Brittany Shine and you just won the grand jury prize for Seeds. And if that is you watching, congrats. But for the rest of us, how are we going to let people know about what we do, who we are? How are we going to get jobs and opportunities over other people? The answer is marketing. It's networking, brand building. Now, that doesn't mean you need to go start a YouTube channel like I did. This could mean that you go to filmmaker meetups in your hometown. It could mean you hustle on cold emails. There are a bunch of ways to think about how to do this. But at some point, if you want to make a career in this space, you do need to develop some sort of marketing strategy that works for you and your personality. Truth number 8, rejection is your constant companion. You are going to face rejection constantly at every part of the filmmaking process, from trying to get access to stories, to trying to film in certain locations, to raising money, to pitching stories, to pitching clients, to applying for grants, to applying for fellowships, to applying for festivals, to trying to get your film distributed, to putting out your films on platforms like YouTube and having people say you suck. If you want to make a career as a documentary filmmaker, you're going to face rejection at every turn. Just know that rejection doesn't mean you are a bad person or a bad filmmaker. Rejection is part of the process. If you are not being rejected, you're probably not pushing yourself and you're not growing as fast as you could. So go out and get some rejections. Truth number 9, free work is part of the journey. Free work is a funny one. Every time I see people on YouTube talk about working for free or low budgets, they just get shredded in the comments by people who are saying, oh, you're bringing down the whole industry. Here's the thing. The people complaining about other people working for free are almost always established career professionals, and they aren't looking out for the beginners. They're looking out for themselves. Okay? If you're just getting started making videos or documentaries of any kind, there will absolutely be times when you should work for free, because money isn't the only kind of value. Do you want to build your portfolio? Do you want to start creating relationships in the industry? Want the pressure of working with a client? Want to learn from others? Those are all valuable. And when you're just getting started, the easiest way to access those things is by working for free. I've been doing this work for 10 years and I still work for free all the time. Not only do I make free videos for nonprofits, but I also, shoot for free on projects that don't currently have money but might someday. Also, I'm not getting paid to make this YouTube video. I'm working for free. Well, why am I doing it? Because I'm building value, I'm building trust, I'm building community. So when it comes time for me to mention something like the fact that I offer one-on-one consulting calls to help you work through your specific projects and challenges, some of you might feel that you trust me and my experience and perspective enough to book a call. The moral of the story here is that money is not the only way to pay people for their efforts. Simply giving people an at-bat is something I very strongly believe in. Now, you may disagree with me, and that's okay, I respect that, but truthfully, I don't think there's a single person who's achieved a substantial amount of success that hasn't done anything for free as a strategic chess move. And I'll make the prediction that in 20 years, that not only will working for free be more socially acceptable, paying someone to work for them will be too. There are documentary directors out there right now like Jesse Moss or Jimmy Chin or Matthew Heineman. I would pay them to work for them. Truth number 10, idolizing is a slippery slope. It's great to look at what other people create and admire their work and to emulate that in some way. But don't let that slippery slope lead you into idolizing the person who made the work. Remember, most of the filmmakers that you look up to probably live a life that would make you miserable. So admire the work and design your life and career around what is right for you. Truth number 11, the gear trap. If you aren't happy with the gear that you have right now, if you're constantly looking at the latest and greatest upgrades and thinking to yourself, if only I had X or Y, you will always think that way. No matter where you get to in your career, you will always think that you don't have what you need. You'll always wish that you had something else. So if that's you, start working on your relationship to gear. You have all that you need to be successful right now. Truth number 12, no one cares. You just spent a ton of time working on a story. You're deeply passionate about it. You believe that the world would be a much better place if everyone saw your film and learned about the issues presented in it. After spending months or years on a project, it's hard to believe that someone out there wouldn't be equally as passionate about what you created. But unfortunately, the brutal truth is no one really cares. Now, if you truly made something special and you are great at that marketing element that we talked about earlier, you absolutely can get people to care. But you should probably assume that no one cares. What can you do about it? Well, you should understand that especially if you are freelance, it's on you to make people care. And two, I think this is the really important one. If you get into video journalism or documentary filmmaking, you're likely doing so because you want to make a positive impact in the world. And you believe that film is a powerful medium to change hearts and minds, which it is. Now, here's the two things that we need to hold in our mind at the same time. The first is that we need to hold on to the belief that our work can truly make a transformational impact in the world. The second is that most likely our work will just end up being another drop in the ocean of knowledge and understanding in our world. And we have to be okay and find the beauty in that single drop, because over time, lots of drops is how change is made. Truth number 13, success takes a long time. There is no hack with filmmaking. There's no 6-minute abs, no quick way to have success in this industry. So just stop looking for it. Extraordinary accomplishments come from doing ordinary things for extraordinary periods of time. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one about 8 filmmaking fundamentals that I wish I had learned sooner. Learn from my mistakes, y'all. I'll see you next week. Until then, go out and tell some stories.